All right, welcome to the show today, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. My guest today is Matthew Yao. Matthew, he showed a lot of potential as a kid, but he made a few poor decisions, and by age 15, he was, as he describes, a dropkick delinquent teen who was skipping school, drinking, doing drugs, and partying every night. Eventually, this lifestyle caught up to him, and he was arrested and kicked out of school and was at the lowest point of his life. At this point, he realized he needed to make a change and decided to seek out guidance from successful people who could show him the way to a better life. Fast forward a few years, and Matthew is a completely different person. He spent 3 years traveling the world seeking out mentors and has built relationships with titans in the business world, including successful CEOs, entrepreneurs, and billionaire property developers. With their guidance paired with his curiosity and drive for self education, Matthew is creating the life he wants for himself and the people around him, running his own social media agency and sharing what he's learning through his own social media presence and online courses. I think all of that's really impressive on its own merits, but the kicker for me is he's still only 19 years old, and I definitely wasn't doing anything noteworthy at 19 years old. So I wanted to bring Matthew on the show just to find out how he went from dropkick teen to running his own agency and being mentored by billionaires and CEOs, how he actually built these relationships with such successful people, and what his plans for the future are. So, Matthew, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks, James, for the awesome introduction. Um, but yeah, like you mentioned, I'm kind of building the life that I want to live, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be. Um, so there's a
Yeah,
lot
man.
more to go for me, and there's no way that I've arrived. Like one of my mentors always tells me, like the moment you think you've arrived is the moment that you're done. But yeah, so I mean, it's a journey. So, but yeah, thanks, James, for having me
Absolutely,
here.
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's definitely quite a journey. I've been following what you've been up to for a while, but I know we're a bit pressed for time here, so I just wanted to just get a bit of a sense quickly about your story, because you were
Mm,
born in New Zealand, but you moved to Singapore at a pretty young age. And
mm,
from what I've researched about you and what I've seen about you, you had a pretty happy childhood, and you studied pretty hard, and you got into a good school in Singapore, but
mm.
then your life started to spiral downwards a bit. So what happened here? Like, why did things change around for you, and what happened?
Well, James, you did quite a bit of research. Um, but yeah, like basically it started out when I was, I basically moved around a lot. I was born to Chinese immigrant parents. They went to New Zealand with almost nothing in their pockets basically, and they built a whole new life. Learn a new language, English, and they had to redo their college degrees because their college degrees from China weren't recognized. So they built their lives up from scratch, and that's where I was born in New Zealand. And
Hmm.
so from young, I had a wide exposure to many different cultures as well. Imagine because I was, growing up in New Zealand, that's like a Western culture, but my parents were from China, so I was like
Mm,
Chinese,
mm,
and so that gave me kind of like a multi-dimensional view of the world, and we did travel quite a lot, and obviously I did move to Singapore eventually when I was 10, and that again, that was like my first real experience of moving. Um, but
mm.
basically, moving around to so many different, cities, different countries. By the time I was about 17, I'd already lived in four different countries, um,
Mm.
and that's just something. Like when I was growing up, I thought that was kind of normal to, for people to move around. But then the more I meet people, the more I realize um, how special my childhood experience was, because no one really moves around that much, and
Mhm.
that gave me in turn this that moving around experience gave me this maturity. Um, you could almost describe it as precocious. Um,
Mm.
Precocious, as in, I matured very quickly. Uh, from
You kind of had
for
to, I guess.
I had to, yeah, and I saw a lot of different things, and saw why and how different people were doing things differently, different cultures, people thought differently, spoke differently, everything was different, and
Mm.
it also gave, like, obviously in hindsight, this is only in hindsight, I realized that I've picked up like this chameleon ability to be able to adapt real quickly to different environments. And I'm sure you know, James, being able to adapt quickly is, one of the main things we need to survive in the business world, even as an entrepreneur, and especially in this new world. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that was
absolutely.
basically it. Yeah.
So what happened then? Because it sounds like it was almost like a positive experience, and you were kind of picking up all these different cultures, seeing all these different things, and it kind of seemed like it was in a way a good thing. So maybe you could quickly explain what actually happened. Like, what happened to you? Why did you start going down a more destructive path? And could you maybe just explain exactly what happened there?
Awesome. Yeah, so obviously it's I wanted to start off with the positive side of things, of my experiences growing up, but obviously that comes with a downside, right, James? When you're when you're moving around at such a young age, you don't have stability, right? And if you're being uprooted from your home, your culture, your friends, especially your friends, your school, your sense of belonging, everything, your whole paradigm is like, it's you're almost you're shaken up. So that manifested it in my life, in my rebellious personality. And I didn't fit in school because I was making new friends everywhere I went. I was always the new kid on the block, you know what I mean? um,
Mm.
I got around along with people quite well, but there was no deeper connection. I really couldn't connect with people on a deep level, and that was because I'd seen things that other people hadn't seen. I'd met people that other people hadn't met, and I've done things that other people haven't done at such a young age. So it was just natural for me to feel a bit different and a bit slightly of an outcast.
Mm.
Um, so that was now we're getting into the teenage years. When you're starting to get a bit of freedom and you start to rebel, and you think the world is against you. And that was the low point of my life, because you know I didn't know where my sense of belonging was. I didn't know, you know like all these questions. And then I started to mix with the wrong crowd, started to smoke cigarettes, smoke weed, experiment with drugs, drinking, partying, all that stuff, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And that was where I found freedom, man. But obviously it was all an illusion. um,
Mm.
it was it was just like temporary. It was just temporary happiness.
Yeah.
That
Almost like an
mm,
escapism
yeah,
from your.
absolutely. It was like an escape mechanism that I was, you know, using to kind of try to make up for this lost sense of belonging. And that lost sense of belonging came from moving around so much. But that was the downside of that, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, pretty big downside then. Yeah, so you're sort of skipping school, you're experimenting with drugs, drinking, partying all the time, hanging out with the
Mm.
wrong people, and even though you're doing all this sort of bad stuff, and it sounds like you always had a bit of an entrepreneurial itch as well. Could you maybe
Mm.
just quickly tell us what your first business was? And I'll put that in air quotes.
My first business. That's quite funny. So yeah, you probably read already my story, but yeah, my first business. I was doing my crazy stuff, and I was always an enterprising guy. I was always thinking of ways how I can make a bit of money here and there, or how I can make things work for me, right? Um, I didn't really want to get a job. I knew from a young age that a job wasn't for me, because I didn't honestly. Because I've got such a rebellious spirit that I just don't like being told what to do. Um, I don't mind being instructed by mentors, which is what we're probably going to talk a little bit about more later. I don't mind
Mhm.
being instructed by mentors, but being told what to do by a boss, or like someone above me, that's something that I've always had like a problem with.
Mhm.
And actually, I realized a lot of other entrepreneurs have slight authority issues. If you look at all the successful entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, they all had these kind of incidences in their early lives, um, where they rebelled.
Mhm.
But yeah, so
So
uh,
your business was doing what?
so yeah, so to answer your question, my first business, I started to look for ways to earn money, and um, the thing that came up to me was to sell contraband cigarettes. That was the first thing that I had. So cigarettes are usually quite expensive in the modern world. Obviously, they have what they call it, sin tax, right? Sin tax.
Mm.
And but I found a guy. Um, so this was when I was in Singapore. I was about 15 years old. I found a guy, and he provided about, he would get cigarettes from Malaysia and Indonesia. So he'd get them real cheap for like $2, like $1 or $2 a pack, right? While they
Mm.
were selling for about 11 or $12 in Singapore. I know in Australia it's like $25 now, but
Mm.
$1 and $2 versus $12, that's still quite a lot. So
It's a good
I'd get
markup.
these, yeah. So I'd get these cigarette packs, and I get them for cheap from these people, and I'd sell them to my friends. And the thing is, at the time, my friends were all like, well, most of them were underage, under 18. So I'd sell them away, and I'd mark up the prices, and that was like a little business for me, obviously. Yeah,
Yeah, it's cool. It's obviously probably not the best thing to be selling, but it's a cool story. I
yeah,
like that you were still hustling.
yeah. Like,
So
like for me, I don't want to go too much in detail, or else I might incriminate myself. I might
yeah.
incriminate some other people as well. But it's a cool story. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Mm.
So fast forward, I guess, to March 2015, and that was when you sort of had enough. And that was kind of the point that you decided you need to change. So,
Mm.
and change your life around, really, go back on a good path. So I'm curious, what actually caused that change, that sudden change? Was it one particular event, or had things just been building up? Maybe talk about that for a little bit if you can.
Okay, so um, the moments leading up to March 2015, obviously, I hit rock bottom one night when I was, doing my business and, doing my crazy stuff. And, eventually I was arrested by the police, right?
Mm.
And, they tied me up in handcuffs, and it was at night time. It was like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. I don't know why, but all this stuff happens at night. I just don't know why, but all this stuff always happens at night. So they put me in the cop car, and they took me to the police station, and it was the scariest experience of my life, but it was also the biggest wake up call for me, honestly, because at that point in time I didn't know where my life was heading, doing all these things, and experimenting and wasting and smoking and partying and drinking my life away, and it was like I didn't care about tomorrow. It was all about today. Everything's about today. Live for the moment. Live for the now. Have fun
Mm.
now, and who cares about what responsibilities you have, or your goals or your ambitions or your dreams. I didn't care anything about that, right?
Mm.
But then they took me to the police station, and they locked me up. It was a long time, man. They locked me up for about 20 hours. Um,
Mm.
about 20 hours, and they had like they had nasty plain as food, that they give
Yeah.
for those people in the lockup cells. And then that was uh, uh, that was a lonely night as well, and that was like I say, it was the darkest night of my life, because that was a night where I had a long time to think, dude. Because when you're
Mm.
in a jail cell, a cold, hard, you know, empty jail cell, white,
Mm-hmm.
white walls, and no bed, concrete floor. You know, there's a hole in the corner of the room which you use as a toilet, just a hole, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you can smell the urine, you can smell the feces and everything. You start to think, man. You start to think. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that night I started to think, and I was thinking, what happened to, what happened to my dreams, what happened to my hopes, what happened to my gifts and my talents, right?
Mm.
Um, and that was a big wake up call for me, man. Uh, started to, started to, that was the night that my direction kind of clicked. My things started to shift because
Mm-hmm.
I realized that point that if I kept on going down the path that I was going on, James,
Mm.
I would have ended up, you know, locked up, like for real, locked up for a long time, or even dead. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So and then that was the real wake up call for me. So and then a few weeks after that, a few months after that, I started to slowly process things, and then March 2015 came along, and I was like, boom, enough is enough, So I woke up that day. I still remember it like it was literally yesterday. I woke up that day, and I opened up all my cigarette packets because I had a bit of cigarette, for my business and all that kind of stuff. I had quite a few cigarette packets, cartons actually, and I opened all of them up. I had hundreds of cigarettes, man, and I opened them up all one by one, and I just broke them in half, just one by one, just broke them in half. And at the end
Mm.
of that whole exercise, there was a whole pile of broken cigarettes, and then I was just like, that's that, and that's done. And that was you could say, that was the beginning of my new life.
Mm. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Sometimes you do have to hit that rock bottom to bounce back up and then go the other way. So yeah, that's good that you got that wake up call and then things started to improve here.
Mm.
So at this point you're starting to get your stuff together. You're kicking all these bad habits. You've broken all your cigarettes. You started working out as well, and
Mm.
then it sounds like, well, I'm curious to know, like, you talk a lot about mentorship,
Mm.
and I want to know how important has having mentors been for you in getting from a position to where you are now and where you want in the future? Have they played a big part in your development? Is that fair to say?
Okay. Yes, having mentors is a definite must. And so, what I usually share with people is that when I was getting out of the whole bad lifestyle, the whole toxic lifestyle, that was me going from negative, right, like below zero, negative, to back to square one,
Mm,
right? So all those people, sorry, all
all
those
good.
people are all these people doing those things still, those people aren't even in the game yet, right? They're literally negative. They're not even at square one, you
Mm,
know? So quitting all of that stuff, that didn't do anything for me. That only got me back to square one, you
mm,
know? So
yeah.
I've actually met a lot of the old people who I used to hang out with, and it's so unfortunate, man, because I said just now that if I went on like the way I was living, I'd end up dead or in jail, right?
Mm,
And a lot of the people who I used to know, they ended up in jail, and some of them are dead.
mm,
So I'm not even kidding when I say that, right? People in
yeah.
my friendship circle who I used to hang out with, those people, a few of them have committed suicide, a few of them have had, drug overdoses, etc., and died. And these guys are young people, man, like 19, 18, 17 years old, right?
Mm,
And so that's a real thing. So
it's
so
awful.
quitting all of that stuff, that only took me back to square one, yeah.
Yeah.
But then from square one, I needed to know what was next, right? What was next? So most people aren't doing drugs. Most people aren't living that lifestyle. So most people are at square one, right?
Mm,
But once I got back to square one, I needed to know what was next after that, right? What are you going
mm,
to do to get from square one to 100, right? 100 is like, the great life, the life of your dreams, the life of your ambitions, the life that you want to live, right? How was I going to get from 1 to 100, right?
mm,
So that was all about, the mentors. So then I started to look for mentors, I started weightlifting, and I started to gain positive momentum. I always talk about building momentum, even things that are unrelated, like lifting weights or whatever, reading books, they all build positive momentum. So I was building positive momentum, and then I started to look for mentors. I went for events, I went for networking conferences, all these things, events in my city, wherever. I signed up for all of them, and I realized a lot of those events that I went to, I was the youngest person in the room. I was so shocked, I was so surprised. And just because I was willing to go to those events, I was about 17 years old at this time, like 17 years old. And everyone else was like 30 or 40, right? So that automatically put me in a position of advantage because I was 17 years old in a room, right? So that made me stand out, right? So people would actually come to me, and they sometimes they would even look at me and they'd be like, "Yo," they'd come to me because they'd be like, "Who's this young boy, young kid here? I want to talk to him. What is he doing here all alone?" Because people would be interested. So that's actually one of the things that I realized for me, and that really worked well for me. So I would actually really recommend anyone who's listening to this who's actually under the age of 20 or even under the age of 25 even to just go to all these events, because just because you go to these events, you already have an advantage because you're so young. And then it was from these events that I was able to meet 1, 2 to 3 successful multi-millionaire and eventually multi-billionaire CEO mentors. And
Yeah, that's cool, man. And yeah, that's such a good point, because a lot of people think that they're too young or they're too whatever, but a lot of the times you can actually turn that into an advantage, like you did, where it does make you stand out. You're the youngest person in the room. Everyone else is 30, 40 years old, and that does make people interested in you and interested in finding out what you're about. So even though you might not have had any skills or anything that you could directly contribute to whatever event that was, just the fact that you were there was enough for people to want to talk to you. So I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And so what I'm curious about is that, and by the way, I'll just ask you, how are we going for time, Matthew? I want to be mindful of your time.
Yeah, we can do about maybe about 15 to 20 more minutes.
Okay, great. We'll get through all this. So one thing I was curious about is that mentorship, it's a bit of a buzzword right now. Like a lot of people say, like, oh, I've got this mentor, like, let me mentor you, blah, blah, blah. And then some people end up saying that they have these successful mentors, but when you dig a bit deeper, it ends up being like some older cousin of theirs who hasn't actually done anything. And it's just all a bit of a facade. But I know that's not the case for you. So can you give us an idea? You don't have to mention names or anything, but just the sort of caliber of people who you've managed to build relationships on a mentorship basis. What sort of people have they been for you?
Okay, so when I talk about mentors, I always, and I do fully agree with you, James, that a lot of people say mentorship, oh, mentors. But the fact is, you've got to pick your mentors really wisely, man. Because if you learn from someone who is going to, who is complete, on the wrong path that you want to go, you're going to end up where they are. So it's actually very, very important to pick the right mentor. A lot of people, they just take whoever comes their way to be their mentor. You got to be very, very selective on who you allow to be your mentor. Or who you try to chase after to be your mentor. And mentors. Some of the mentors that I obviously have built relationships with are obviously people who I want to become. And obviously, I want to be a entrepreneur, I want to be an investor, I want to be a businessman, right? So these are the kind of people who I've reached out to. And another aspect of mentorship is you shouldn't have any more than like 4 or 5 mentors. Even 4 or 5 mentors is already like pushing it. You should just really have 2 to 3, or even just 1 or 2 mentors, and you just follow every single thing they do and every single thing they say, right? So that's why picking the right mentor is so important, because if you do every single thing that they tell you to do, you gotta bloody hell make sure that you pick the right guy. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
So yeah, I've been able to build relationship with multi-billionaires and successful CEOs, and And these are the people who I look up to, you know. And it's not only because they are successful in their money and their finances and their business, but it's also because I see how they live their lives, how they carry themselves, their character, right? You know, you can go and get a multi-billionaire mentor who's an absolute, like, you know, for you know, don't mind my language, absolute asshole, right? But that's not the kind of guy who I want to be my mentor, like, because I don't want to have all the money in the world, but no family, no one loves me, no one likes me, no one respects me. You know, I don't want to be known as a nasty guy. So you got to be careful of who you be a mentor. But obviously, like a lot of people say, it's hard to find the perfect guy, and perfect people do not exist, right? So you just got to be really, really careful, and pick and choose as well as you can, right? Choose as well as you can. And if you are lucky, you might come into contact with someone who's got the whole package, like I have. You know, I've come into one or two people. I don't really need to mention their names.
Can we, for the benefit of the people listening, can we mention, you've publicly done a video about one particular mentor. Can we mention his name just to give the listeners context?
So I think so that's one of my mentors who's the richest man in Singapore. I think you're referring to, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So he's one of the people who I really, really admire, and just everything, like I said just now, you know, business-wise, family, you know, relationships, character. These are the kind of people that you need to look out for, you know, because it's not all about you. It's not all about the bank account, right? Someone can have a big bank account, but they can be an absolute mess. Everything else, they might be, you know, they might have disease. They might be overweight or whatever. They might be unfulfilled. They might have a failed marriage. And even now, I'm actually growing very, very disillusioned with the world, because I see a lot of people who have outward success, right, James? Outward success, but they don't have what I want, right? For example, I actually quite admire Jeff Bezos for what he's done with Amazon. But, you know, with the recent news of him, you know, divorcing his wife and, you know, running off, blah, 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 I'm not, like, I admire Jeff Bezos as an entrepreneur, but personally, as a family man, and as overall, you know, that other side of his life, you know, his personal life, that's not something that I would like to emulate. You know, I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to be the richest man in the world, that my wife of 25 years divorces me. You know, I don't want that.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. And just for anyone curious, if you Google the richest man in Singapore, the person on the top of the list is the person who Matthew is referring to. But regardless of that, I think that's completely true. You can admire certain aspects of people and take away certain parts of them. And it's almost like, as you said, if you've got four or five different sort of mentors or people that you look up to, they're not, as you said, not all going to be perfect in every area. So you can kind of pick and choose, I guess, what are the areas I want to learn from this person. Obviously, you do want to aim to get as close to perfect as possible, as you said, but what are the different bits and pieces I can take from all these different people? It might be the business acumen of this one mentor, and then the athleticism of this other mentor, and you kind of you bring it all together and take what you want. And just because someone doesn't live their life exactly as you would see as the best way, like someone like Jeff Bezos you were just talking about, you can still take something from what they've achieved and take the good parts and just choose to leave out the rest. I think that's I believe that anyway.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, for sure. And I think one more thing I want to add, James, is that a lot of these people who I would say, who are people you can emulate 100%. Well, not 100%, because no one is perfect, right? No one in this world is perfect. No man is perfect, right? Maybe 99%, you know, or maybe 95. One of these guys is Sam Walton. Yeah? So my favorite autobiography is Sam Walton's Made in America. If you guys haven't read that book, I would really recommend you to pick it up. It's $5. Go read it. You will learn about everything this man wrote about on his deathbed, right? So this guy, actually Sam Walton, at one point in time, he was the richest man in history, right? Because actually the Walton family right now is about worth about 160 or 170 billion. Split among his children, obviously for tax issues. So this man is a 160 billion, 170 around there billion, dollar man, and he started out with, he started out from humble beginnings, and he's a perfect guy, well, almost perfect guy, family man. He's everyone respects him, everyone loves him, and he's a humble guy, and yeah. So Sam Walton is one of those guys. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So, what's your advice to someone? So you've managed to get all these really top performing mentors and build relationships with these amazing people, and a lot of people look at what you've been able to do with that and wonder how they might be able to find mentors. So maybe they're just starting out, they're at that square one, as you said, and they're looking to find someone that they can emulate and follow and learn by osmosis from. So do you have any specific advice to someone who might be in that position where they're trying to find like a top quality mentor and how to approach them? Could you give any quick tips or advice on that?
Okay, yeah. One of the things that I tell a lot of people, and I teach some of my students this as well, is that you got to, obviously you got to make a hit list first, a mentor hit list, right? I call it a hit list, because these are the people you want to hit. You got to make a list first of who you want to approach, because if you don't know who you approach, you're just kind of shooting from the hip, right? You're just kind of going with the flow, and you can't do that with these kinds of things, because you got to be deliberate, because this is your life, this is your future. Don't play around with these kinds of things. Make a list, right, of someone who you want to be like. Well, obviously before that you got to know what kind of a destiny, what kind of a path you want to go down, right? And then you pick and choose who's already there, right? Whose life. A good question to ask is, would you trade lives with this guy? If the answer is yes, then okay, that guy is someone that you might want to approach to be your mentor. But again, I don't want people to get confused, like it's actually your decision to be mentor, because it's actually not your decision. It's the mentor's decision whether he or she's going to mentor you or not. But still you got to pick and choose carefully, right? So make a list first, and put yourselves in situations, put yourselves in environments where you can find and interact with these people, right? Whatever it may be, whether it may be a networking conference, whether it be an event, whether it be a job. You might even have to, pick up a job, or like a little internship, or whatever it is. Go for these things, or you might even have to like join a country club membership.
Yeah.
I've heard of people who do these kind of things. They are not that kind of person. If you're part of a country club, you're probably you're probably rich. But I've heard of people who just join to to meet people, and that's a really, really smart thing, because this is how you meet these kind of people, right? Or going to places, going to events. For example, nowadays I go to a lot of art and paintings, auctions and events, and rare watches and rare jewelry and rare diamonds kind of things, because I'm learning about these things, going to be investing in these things, and my mentor was also investing in these things, so I go along with him. And at these places, people can just go to them. Like a lot of them, you can just find them, and if you can just find your way into these kind of events, learn about something, learn about these things, you can connect with these high level people. You can, like, and this is something that no one will tell you. Like, if you go to school, no one will tell you how to connect with high caliber people, and this is only something that I've learned from experience. So just think of ways to expose yourself to people who, where do they first ask yourself, who do you want to emulate, and then ask yourself, where can I find them, and then the last question is, how do I get there, what do I have to do to be in that room, what do I have to do to be in that office, what do I have to do to be in that event,
Absolutely, man. So it's almost half the battle is just showing up a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
people overcomplicate it, but sometimes you just got to rock up to the country club or go to the art auction, and then things just happen if you go to the right places, and things just tend to happen. So I agree with that. And
Absolutely.
and what about I know you talk a lot about building relationships rather than connections, and actually providing value to mentors as a way to connect with them. So what's your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people are trying to they're like, I want to be mentored by this billionaire CEO so I can become rich. But what's your approach there?
Okay, giving back and mentorship is definitely a two-way street. Okay, so you got to understand what's in it for them. I always say this: what's in it for them. It's not what's in it for you. Because if everyone's thinking about me, right? I. It's not about you, right? It's about them. What's in it for them? So every time you go talk to these people, whether you bring them a gift or bring them a book, do some research, right? What do they like? What's their favorite coffee? What's their favorite drink? Or what what alcohol do they like? Bring these things. These are the things that will set you apart from the rest, right? Starting off, a gift is good because it's simple, and a lot of times you don't know the guy, so a gift is easy to do. And a lot of these successful people, they like to read books. Obviously you got to do your research of what they like, right? And you can probably make a few guesses here and there. And what I like to do is usually I like to bring two books because a lot of these people, they've already read a lot of books. Right? So that's only something that you will realize once you actually do this. So I've done this a lot, James. So I know that I always got to bring two books because, just in case they've already read one book, right? So I always bring two books, for
It's a good tip.
for these kind of things. So give back whatever it is, and I'm quite aware of the fact that it might be a bit hard for most people to find multi-billionaires, and I was quite lucky to be able to, get around the people I've been able to get around. But I'm not saying it's not possible for other people. It definitely is possible for some people, and definitely try, but don't be discouraged if the first guy you reach out to says no or whatever. Just keep persisting. Maybe I've reached out to a lot of people. I've lost count of how many people I reached out to before I was able to strike gold. You could say strike gold, and to be able to build relationship with those 2 to 3 people I mentioned. Only just 2 to 3 people is necessary. And offer value and
Sorry to interrupt. I think that's a great point, though, and worth highlighting. It is a numbers game to an extent. Like a lot of people will reach out to one person, they'll send one email, and then they don't get a response, and then they just give up. But as you said, if you reach out to hundreds of people and actually put in personalized effort, you might buy 100 books to give to people, and not one of them sort of reciprocates it and becomes your mentor as such. But you just got to keep going until you get that 1, 2, or 3 people who are going to make all the difference. So persistence, I think, as well is key.
Well, yeah. Just to add on, I didn't actually reach out to hundreds of people, but I did reach out to quite a bit of people. And obviously, I was
absolutely.
Persistence is key. Yeah,
absolutely. And look, I want to be mindful of your time, Matthew, because I know you're a busy guy. You've got prior arrangements to get to. So, what I was thinking here is maybe I think we've established your story, which I think is a fascinating story, and you've shared a lot of value about how you found your mentors and how that can be applied to how other people can apply that as well. So there's a ton of stuff I'd love to be able to talk to you about eventually. So maybe we could end things here, and I think there's enough value just in this half an hour, 40 minutes that we've had a chat here, and perhaps maybe we could have another point sometime down the line, if you would be up for that.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I might have time for just one more question. So what's the last thing that you wanted to ask me about?
Yeah, cool. Oh, pressure's on here. How about this? This is a funny one. So, a fun one, I think. So you cut your own hair, and I think you deliberately make it short. And so I'm curious. And you also wear $10 shoes, and I think that's not a necessity. That's for some other reason. So maybe you could share your thoughts behind that.
Okay, so the main reason why I cut my own hair is it's a discipline thing. It's a discipline, and it's also a convenience thing for me, because as someone who's in charge of, who's responsible for my own income, I'm responsible for my own destiny, and I got decisions to make every day. This small decisions like, what am I gonna eat for breakfast? What am I gonna wear? You know, what am I gonna? These small decisions drain your mental glucose, right?
Mm.
And my experience, which I've actually learned from a lot of my mentors, and from people like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, is to minimize as many unnecessary decisions as possible. And one of these is obviously styling your hair. How much time do you spend styling your hair every day? Quite a bit. I reckon like 2 to 3 minutes for a guy. Maybe you make sure you look good in the mirror. Some people put gel or whatever. But that's 2 to 3 minutes. You're thinking about how good you look. That's 2 to 3 minutes that you can spend on thinking about, how am I going to acquire more customers for my business?
Mm.
How am I going to increase my top and bottom lines for my business?
Mm.
Or what am I going to learn from my mentor today? These kinds of things that I want to be. These are the big questions in life, right? Not like how am I going to achieve my dreams? How am I going to achieve my goals? How am I going to live the life that I want to live? These are the big questions that I want to be thinking about every day. Not, do I look good, or what do I wear? So this hair thing, cutting my own hair, it takes me about like 2 minutes once a week. I just trim my hair with my own thing, and I literally look the same every day. And it's awesome because I look the same every day. I don't have to complain about a bad hair day at all.
Yeah.
And it's short, it's low maintenance, like you said, mainly for discipline, convenience, and of course, so I don't have to think about these retarded decisions, which I could spend my mental energy, my resources on the bigger questions in life that actually make a difference. And
100%.
yeah, and $10 shoes, same thing. It's I grew up from my immigrant parents, so I was raised I was taught how to be frugal with my money, and I was taught to not never waste things, and shoes as well. I saw my parents from a young age. They'd wear these. They taught me to never buy things that would rust or depreciate. And
Mm.
clothes and shoes, especially shoes, right? They, they're on the floor every day, so they are the quickest to rust or depreciate. So I don't really like to spend that much money on shoes. And a
Mhm.
lot. See, this is the thing and then eventually that became like a mindset thing for me, because it was like a test for myself. I would be wearing these $15 shoes, but I'd be making like thousands of dollars, and I'd see a lot of people who their bank accounts are literally empty, but they're wearing like hundreds of dollars of shoes. And then I'm thinking to myself, man, what a joke! You got your priorities messed up, right? And of course,
Mhm.
I saw that in my mentors. These are guys who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars and even billions of dollars, walking around in flip flops, man, flip flops. I'm not even kidding, flip flops, and
Yeah.
and they wear like ordinary clothes, etc. Nothing too fancy, but of course for the right occasion. If it's a dinner occasion, nice occasion, they'll wear something a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
But day to day, generally, you know, um, it's good to keep it humble, keep it low key, keep it low profile, right? And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I've learned to pick up. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely, man. I love
Mm,
that. I think it's cool. And people think about stuff like their hair and they say, oh, like 2 to 3 minutes, who cares? Like it's not
mm,
really, it won't add up to anything, but it does. You're right. Like decision fatigue's a real thing. People make so many decisions every day. If you can streamline that and make it the process less taxing, then you can focus on things that actually matter. And
mm,
I couldn't agree more about the shoes and like the clothes. People often who look rich are the ones who actually are broke because they
mm.
just all they care about is appearance, and it's often the other way around, as you said. The billionaires are the ones walking around in flip flops. So
Yes.
I totally agree.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well,
Yeah.
last question here, Matthew, is just before we finish up, is what's the best way for people to connect with you? I think you're on trajectory to do big things. You're already doing awesome stuff, and that's no doubt going to keep continuing. So if someone wants to reach out to you or connect with you for the time being, what's the best way to do that?
Cool. So I'm active on my Instagram account almost every day. I post stories, updates. You know, if you guys want to follow my life, what I'm doing for my business, what I'm learning from my mentors. You know, I travel a lot. You know, my travels. You can follow my Instagram. It's at Matthew_Yao, just Matthew Yao. You can follow me there, and you can send me an Instagram DM, and you can say James, sent you. That would be a way to reach out to me, or you can check out my website at matthewyao.com. And I've also recently launched a new course. It's called, the University of Greatness, where I really want to kind of educate people, where I'm teaching people what I've been learning from my multi-billionaire mentors, and everything you need to know to achieve the life that you want to live. You know, mindset, how to make money, how to find mentors, and you can find that on my website as well. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for that. And
Cool.
guys, definitely go follow him on Instagram. He puts out awesome content every single day, and he's not one of those like fluffy motivational people who hasn't actually achieved anything. He's actually doing big things, and yeah, I'm grateful that you came on the podcast today. You've shared a lot of value, and hopefully we can do a round two at some point. And I've got a lot more questions I want to ask you. So thanks again, Matthew, for joining us today, and hope you have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, James, for having me.
All right, and thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good day. See ya.
Thank you.